Hi there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host. Hey there, and welcome to this week's show. As we dive into the new year, both Venus and Mars will join with the Sun in Capricorn. This helps create a reset, which can feel really significant. And it also lets us know that each of these planets, Venus and Mars, is in the midst of a really intensive purification process. So that's what we're going to dive into in today's show. Before we do, I want to let you know about my Introduction to Aspects course, which is called Aspects, Action, and Motivation, which is happening right now. In this 4-part training, you'll learn the main 5 aspects. You'll learn how to identify an aspect, and you will take the first steps to interpret these aspects to help you understand meaning and core themes in a birth chart. If you'd like to join us and really start building your chart interpretation skills, follow the link in the show notes to sign up. I hope to see you in class soon. All right, so let's get back to the week starting January 3. Let's cover off those details first. So it's on January 6th, maybe the 7th, depending on where you are, that we have Venus conjunct the Sun at 16 Capricorn. And then a few days later, we have Mars conjunct the Sun at 19 Capricorn. So Mars conjunct the Sun will be on January 9th, and it's on January 6th that we have Venus conjunct the Sun. So it really is interesting and kind of striking that Venus and Mars will both meet the Sun within a few days of each other. Both of these planets are undergoing a type of ritual purification process, and that can involve symbolically kind of burning away old interests and patterns, like old priorities, old desires, old passions, they're sort of burning them off, composting them down. And as part of this ritual purification process, both Venus and Mars are attuning to new wisdom and guidance from the Sun, as if they're each kind of receiving new instructions or getting clear on new intentions for the next chapter. That means that you too might experience a kind of renewal this week as first Venus and then Mars dances with the Sun. So this first full week of January very much feels like a shift in perspective. And you might find that you are ready to reset your focus, that you want to choose new objectives, new priorities, new goals, and new intentions for yourself. Now, of course, Venus and Mars both represent different topics and themes, but the general qualities of a planet being with the Sun are the same. This idea of being invisible, being hidden, working in a more liminal or intangible space, and certainly this idea of undergoing this ritual purification process. And so it might be helpful to think about both Venus and Mars as experiencing important endings and significant beginnings this week. And of course, that will translate to you too experiencing an important ending and a significant beginning. And probably 2 important endings and 2 significant beginnings, because there'll be a beginning and an ending associated with Venus, and then an ending and a beginning associated with Mars. And I did find this to be kind of poetic and really fitting, given that it is the start of a new calendar year. And you too might be attuning to new goals and projects. You might be clarifying your intentions and your goals for 2026. You might find that you're wanting to adopt new strategies for relationships, for friendships, and for business partnerships. So I loved this idea of Venus and Mars going through a reset at a time of year when many of you will be wanting to kind of go through a bit of a purification ritual of your old, leaving behind, what you want to leave behind from 2025 and the years gone by, and instead choosing like a fresh, clean focus or maybe even a new path forward for the new year. Now, both Venus and Mars are invisible. In fact, they're both invisible for a few months, and that's really important to think about. So, Venus and Mars are not visible in the sky in December, January, and February. Venus actually doesn't emerge from being near the sun until early March, and Mars not till mid-March, if we use that Hellenistic kind of standardized definition of a planet having to be 15 degrees away from the sun to be visible or to be fully seen in its own right. And I know thinking about a planet being hidden or being visible is perhaps a different or a more visual way of thinking about a planet's influence, but it really does add to their expression. It's an important nuance or technical factor to keep in mind. Given that both Venus and Mars will meet the sun in this first week of January, this is almost like each of them being at the middle of this invisibility journey. And that means that you too might be deep into a place of reflection and contemplation. It may not be a process that starts this week, but you may get to the good stuff this week. You may get to the realization, the clarity, the aha moment. And sometimes we get to that after a period of stepping back or having taken time for reflection and contemplation. You might find that you're really mulling over possibilities or pondering your options. You might be getting clear on new skills and passions that you want to develop, or you might find that taking time away is really helping you reset your priorities and kind of catch those inklings or those kind of fresh and emerging possibilities for the future. And so, whether you're looking to kind of think about relationships and pleasure and leisure activities with Venus, or whether you're thinking about motivation and drive with Mars, actively setting some intentions, either to do with Venus around January 6th or to do with Mars themes around January 9th, can be a great way to kind of capture this Venus in the heart of the sun or Mars in the heart of the sun moment. I always like to think of a planet that's invisible as a planet that is working in that intangible liminal space. So this is a planet that may be less focused on matter and material topics, on things of the physical realm. So they're not as focused on that. And instead, a planet that's invisible is one that is drawn to those kind of invisible yet really profound themes. So instead of working on stuff, it might be that this planet is really attuned to energy or to intuition or to the idea of wisdom. It's that sort of very kind of hard to capture, but really visceral, really sensory, really it could be imagination, it could be intuition, it could be the intellect at work, if you like. So if that's the case, you might find that you're attuned to things like magic and the metaphysical realm. You might be really kind of drawn to spend time working on concepts or mindset or values, which are all kind of intangible things. We can see our values expressed through our actions and our choices, but the value itself is sort of this intangible thing. Same with our mindset, same with our kind of conceptual framework. And so that idea of wanting to spend time either with the magic, energy, metaphysical space, so it's a great week for ritual, kind of like looking within. And you might kind of be doing part of that, but also that idea of what are my passions? What is the source of motivation and drive, for me, for you, for each of us? And so this idea of not being maybe not pushing ourselves for outputs or tangible, productive results, and instead trying to get clear on the intentions, the inklings that happen before the outcomes and the outputs. One of my teachers, Demetra George, describes a planet conjunct the sun as one that is in the sacred sanctuary. And this draws on ancient ideas about the sun as a source of divinity and revealed knowledge and wisdom. The sun as the source of kind of divine, all-knowing inspiration and guidance. And so when a planet isn't visible and instead is with the sun, as Venus and Mars are this week in their conjunctions with the sun, it is as if the planet has kind of stepped away from its regular roles or locations, its regular tasks, and is instead on a pilgrimage to a temple to commune with its higher sources and guides. And that might be a symbolism that you could relate to this week of wanting to tune in to higher guidance, of wanting to connect or reconnect with what is sacred for you, of wanting to put the sacred at the center, if you like. It might feel as though you're crossing a threshold, even if it's just happening inside your own heart. You might realize that you are ready to purify and release old habits and goals, or that it is time to update patterns of behavior that no longer serve you. So that cleansing ritual purification process that Venus and Mars are going through can translate as you kind of maybe shedding old skins, replacing bad habits with better habits. It may help you acknowledge what you're ready to leave behind. What door do you want to close? And then having that pause before opening the next door or setting off in a new direction. Both Venus and Mars speak to things like pleasure and passion, to the connections and the challenges that we seek out. So whether right now you're more interested in exploring leisure, pleasure, and relationship topics as inspired by Venus, or whether you're mostly interested in exploring drive and energy and confidence and motivation as described by Mars, I really hope that you're able to take some quiet time and space to tap into new guidance and intentions this week and to really get clear on the habits, the attitudes, or the behaviors that you are leaving behind as you move forward into 2026. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Kelly's Astrology podcast. If you are enjoying the show, I would so appreciate you liking, subscribing, and following along to make sure that you get notifications about each future episode. I would love to hear what is shifting and realigning itself inside you as Venus and Mars meet with the sun this week. Let me know your experiences or your intentional shifts in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.